Welcome to West Ohio Conversations, a podcast from the West Ohio Conference of the United Methodist Church. Today, we join a conversation between conference communicator Kay Panevec and Bishop Gregory von Palmer as they discuss the ongoing work of the Commission on a Way Forward.
Bishop Palmer, thank you for joining us today. Today we're talking about an update on the Commission on a Way Forward. Before we get too far into it, would you remind us about the work of the Commission and how you became a part of it?
Thank you, Kay. It's good to be with you and with all the saints in West Ohio and wherever they may be picking up this podcast. The Commission on the Way Forward became a response of the General Conference in 2016 when we were meeting as a General Conference to finding a way past the impasse that we've had as a denomination for a long time through many quadrennia, many General Conferences, particularly around the matter of human sexuality and homosexuality and the life of the church and the Christian faith in particular. Obviously, there was a motion from the floor by a delegate because bishops don't make motions, nor do they vote at the General Conference. There was a motion to support a recommendation that came forward from the Council of Bishops that a commission be appointed that would assist the church in, quote, finding a way forward, unquote. But across these next couple of years, that would be from going from 2016 on, take time to help us think through, come back with some proposals at what might, we said then, be a specially called session of the General Conference, which has subsequently been called for February of 2019. And any recommendations would come back through the Council of Bishops to the 2020 General Conference. So that's sort of the genesis of it. It was always valued that it needed to be diverse. Obviously, lay and clergy needed to be diverse racially, ethnically, national origin, so that it reflected the global church that the United Methodist Church is. So we're 32 United Methodists working to offer to the Council of Bishops and the whole church some possibilities for a different future that will move us beyond the impasse that we've had around human sexuality.
And now, have you been able to participate in every meeting?
I have been a part of every meeting. So the commission has had 3 meetings, and now we've just finished our 4th meeting.
How many more meetings will the commission hold?
There are 5 more meetings to go. So we're just past, we say, our first trimester. And that's important for all of us to keep in mind for a deep and thoughtful process that everybody is holding in prayer and believes is utterly crucial. That if you've got 9 meetings to come up with something, getting past just the first third of them is a sobering reminder of how important the work is and how much there is to accomplish.
Since the United Methodist Church is a global church, I would think that it would be somewhat challenging to have such a diverse group of people participate on this commission, both in terms of language and opinion.
It is challenging indeed, and it is even more enriching to have a reflection of the global church as a part of the Commission on a Way Forward. So people from many continents, so from the U.S., Africa, the Philippines, and multiple places in Europe. We've got a rich sense of who the church is and a rich sense of who the church can be. So we peer into our present and we also look longingly for our future just by looking at the diverse global picture. The one thing that I've come to realize when I think about the richness and the challenges of diversity is we're diverse globally. And also, if we are utterly honest with ourselves in any of our more regional and, dare I say, local contexts, we are just as diverse. It may not be reflected in skin color or first language, but when in terms of theology, understanding of the church, understanding of the nature of grace, our local congregations are diverse and rich places. Our annual conferences are rich and diverse, again, not always with some of the outer and more prominent signs that there is a sense of difference, but with a sense that we do not all think alike about every subject.
Would you say that that is the greatest challenge of this group?
I find it difficult to think of it as a challenge without thinking of it as an opportunity. So it's a challenge that's rich with opportunity. And it's not a challenge that is insurmountable, but it takes vigilance and work and prayer. So if you're on a long journey let's say by foot, one of the things you pay attention to is you probably ought to not start by running it. You ought to find out what's the pacing to get from your start to your proverbial finish.
What has been your greatest learning so far, your personal learning?
My greatest learning is that everybody in that room loves Jesus Christ and loves the church and loves the United Methodist Church. We also have all come to the United Methodist Church from various places of formation as Christians and nurturing. So you've got people in that room that are not only cradle Christians, so to speak, but cradle United Methodists. And you've got people in that room that are converted United Methodists, meaning they may have, their life had been formed in Christ in another church tradition. And in some cases, people who come to this, as is true in all of our local congregations, who were not reared in the life of the church. So that's a challenge and again, an opportunity, but always seasoned with everybody there loves Jesus Christ, loves the United Methodist Church, and loves the church. And I believe yearns for the best for it and also recognizes how challenging that is when we hit those bumps in the road or potholes, as you may want to think of them.
What did you do to prepare for being in an organization or a group of people that had such varying opinions?
The moderators of the commission were very helpful and astute in helping us to work our way into being a community that had common work to do. Everything has been seasoned and overshadowed by worship, by prayer, by study of the scriptures, and by thoughtful and critical reflection upon a number of readings that we agreed to do in common. So that would be readings beyond the scriptures themselves. And so we have spent time trying to ground ourselves before we tried to move into solutions and technicalities and all of that. Finally, this, people did get a chance to tell some of their story. I never presume that if I'm in a group with you that in 5 to 7 minutes I've heard all of your story. But people got to tell their story however they wanted to tell it. But in many cases they framed it around how they came to some of their beliefs and convictions around faith and human sexuality, or their story about how their culture puts on them lenses and filters through which they see every subject matter, of which human sexuality is one.
So give us an update as to where the commission is at this point. You've mentioned you've just completed your fourth meeting.
Just completed the fourth meeting. We have 2 meetings in the fall, one in September, one in October. And we have continued to affirm the mission of the church as our primary objective. The goal, more than getting to a solution to say, oh, how can we stop having this argument, for example, is how can we best be the church that Jesus Christ needs us to be in order to fulfill the mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. There's a wonderful phrase in our vision mission statement as a commission that says we have an eye toward maximizing the presence of the United Methodist Church in as many places possible. I think it's a wonderful, well-spoken phrase that alongside of the mission of the church. What does it mean for us to maximize the presence? Then, of course, we have to drill down to it. What does this conversation, this subject matter have to do with assisting local congregations, annual conferences, et cetera, in maximizing the witness and the presence of the United Methodist Church in as many places as possible? We have begun, I would say, some early sketching of what's possible. And a wonderful metaphor was held in front of us that before there is ever a wonderful painting, there is most often a sketch. There may be the rare artist who can simply go to the canvas with the paint and the product comes. But most artists begin with a sketch. And right now the sketch is broad and diverse and has many dimensions to it. I have to be reminded, and I want to remind the whole church that when the church institutionally has reached big watershed periods, and I don't refer only to the predecessors of the United Methodist Church, people went into conclave for long periods of time debating doctrinal issues. I mean, the Nicene and the Apostles' Creed probably didn't come out in three-day meetings as people convened to talk about what's the nature of God and what's the nature of the church.
So that's a good reminder for those folks who think that maybe your work isn't going fast enough for them.
It's a good reminder for all of us, including those on the commission, but we are not blind by any stretch that there are some real deadlines that we will meet those deadlines, report to the Council of Bishops. The Council of Bishops will then take our work and, by the grace of God and that conversation, determine a way to offer any work product to the General Conference. That's my hope, my prayer, and I think the mandate that we've been given.
And this work, of course, will end up going to the special conference.
To the special session in 2019.
Let me ask you this. If someone listening to this podcast would like to offer support to you and to the members of the commission, what would be the ways we could do that?
Among them, I would ask that you'd continue to pray for the whole commission, to pray for the enterprise in which we're engaged. I'm honored that anyone would pray for me, but much less a whole community that we consider ourselves a part of the same family, an annual conference. So I want you to know, West Ohio and others, that I'm grateful for your prayers and your support. And I have felt them. You've made them tangible through notes and emails and occasionally text, particularly on the eve of meetings where you've said praying for you as you head to a particular place. So I would say keep this bathed in prayer. Secondly, as you pray, don't pray as if this is something external to you and your local context for ministry. Don't be afraid of this conversation. Nothing will get better by getting lost in fear. So this is really a moment for us to affirm, let's choose to not be afraid. And thirdly, I would ask every United Methodist Christian in West Ohio and every congregation in West Ohio to stay on mission. Let me say it more pointedly. Because the United Methodist Church is having this robust discussion, and because a special session of the General Conference has been called, and because there'll be another session of the General Conference in 2020 if life should last, nowhere did I hear Jesus, the Bible, or the General Conference say that the mission of the United Methodist Church to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformational world was somehow or another suspended. There are people literally dying outside of our doors. Some are dying from spiritual hunger and loneliness and a sense that they are alienated from God and from neighbor. Some are dying from access or lack thereof to the resources they need for health care or for food. I mean, the list goes on and on. You all know how the mission of the church expresses itself. Nothing has been put in suspension while this work is going on. We're the people who are on the way, and we've got to do this work, and we got to keep doing the core mission while we get to this next stage of conversation. And so what gives me hope is that the people in that room, who we merely represent millions of United Methodists, are literally giving their heart away for Jesus Christ every single day. And what I plead with and dream for the church is what I think is a new and emerging imagination. And this is how I would describe it. I said this to the folks at Mission U several weeks ago. I said to them, I want to invite you to join me in doing something that often we as human beings don't do until someone dies. And I know you're wondering where that's going. Do you know how you've ever gone around someone that's lost a loved one and you're sitting with them trying to offer them comfort? And they say, the widow, the widower, the child, the parent, I can't imagine my life without her. I can't imagine my life without him. I want us, not because there's a death, so to speak, but I want us to look at one another across our diversity, the people that I most vehemently may disagree with on this or any subject matter, and to say, I can't imagine my life as a Christian and as a United Methodist without you. And I don't want to. I think the Holy Spirit may be saying to us, I'm not sure yet, church, that it's necessary for us to imagine it without one another. Now, when someone physically dies, we all have to live into that reality sooner or later. And not to live into it in a sense of acceptance may cause other kinds of pain down the road. But in the meantime, we're not dead, and we've got lots of life and hope and opportunity in front of us. Might we choose to say, I imagine the future. I imagine doing life. I imagine doing church with you, albeit we might differ on this or other subjects.
Thank you, Bishop. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the conversation. We invite you to keep up to date with all our future podcasts by subscribing on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. For additional information about everything happening at the West Ohio Conference, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or visit our website, westohioumc.org. Do you have a suggestion or idea for a future episode? Email us at mychurchstory@wocumc.org.